Hello. Trying to see all the. I can't see the faces on this platform, but I'll look at my on my phone to see who's all coming in, so I can give you love. If you, okay, if you in here, just tell us where you're from in the chat. Tell us what part of the country you're from, so that our speaker will know who she's talking to. If you can, I know some of you might be driving, so please don't text and drive. But if you can, let us know where you're coming from. What's your name? I want to make sure. Charlotte, North Carolina. Hi, Vanessa. We got Charlotte, North Carolina. I was really close to you last week. I was in Savannah, Georgia. Not too close, but you know. Hey, Annette, California. We got Alabama in the house. Hey, Alabama. How you guys doing? Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that. Who else? Where else are we coming from, guys? All righty. Come on through. All right, so we're going to get started. It's exactly 5 o'clock. I'm not going to do y'all like we did last time. It was start late. Without further ado, I think we have as many people as we're going to probably get. We'll probably get some more people. Rockville, Maryland. Hey, Maryland. Oh, I can't wait to get back to Maryland. I need my seafood. Hey, Fort Lauderdale. How you doing? We're going to go ahead and get started. Keep letting us know where you're coming from. We'll keep checking back so you guys are represented here. And so again, as I mentioned to you guys, once a month, I'm going to be inviting people from all over the country. Probably mostly my friends, because I got some dope friends, people, to come and talk to you guys and engage you, engage North Carolina and Alabama, Maryland, and Fort Lauderdale on conversations that's going to help you strengthen your own advocacy for your young student in college, and strengthen the work that you do in terms of protecting your kids' health and education and safety wherever they go. And so we will have a plethora of options of speakers that come through that's going to help engage you in those opportunities. If you know someone that you think I should reach out to bring to this platform, let us know. But we're going to keep doing this every month. Hey, Connecticut and Birmingham. Hey, Greenville, North Carolina. So again, if you don't know, some of you guys are new. You came in on Monday. So welcome to the new members that came in on Monday. My name is Danielle Hairston Green. I am the one of the administrators for the Howard Parent Connect group. We are in our second year of providing these resources to you guys. And we have two other amazing administrators that will probably log in shortly. I'm sure they're somewhere, and they are. Well, actually, we have a couple people that's really helping us manage this space, but two amazing administrators, and so we just want to thank everyone who's been really helpful in making sure that we stay connected, stay grounded, and stay focused on the vision and the mission of our group. I want to start off by kind of talking to you a little bit about what's going on across the country from a statistical lens regarding mental health and wellness, because that's the focus of our conversation today. So according to Inside Higher Education, if many of you may have heard of this tool, and I usually post something about it on our page, information coming from Inside Higher Education, but they had a new survey that came out like last year about students' experiences during the fall of 2020 semester and the coronavirus pandemic. And in that survey, it found that stress, anxiety, and loneliness were their overriding concern. So the data was representative of actual real life challenges and uncertainty that students say they were facing every single day during the fall. And so what it revealed was that 44% of our students said that they were stressed, that they were dealing with a lot of anxiety, and that they were dealing with loneliness. We had 21% of those students saying that they were having a tough time keeping up academically. We have 14% of our students saying that they have they were struggling finding a space that was good for studying and participating in class. And then another 14% said that they were stressed and dealing with anxiety around paying for tuition and books and other things like that. So fast forward now to fall of 2021, we find that this data still rings true. In fact, some of you have posted about this in our group, and students have been quoted saying that they are worried that they will have to attend school longer because of what's going on in the world, and that they feel way more anxious. And one of the most profound quotes that I saw in this data says that most days I try to focus on the present only because considering the future leaves me terrified. So this is a quote from a student that was surveyed about what brings them anxiety and stress while being in college. So coupling this with some of the most recent protests breaking out on many of our HBCU campuses across the country, including Clark Atlanta University, Tuskegee, and of course Howard University, it's no wonder that the challenges of balancing mental health and academics has heightened. And so today I am with Dr. Ericka Pinckney. She is my good friend, my soror. That's what I said. And she is a licensed therapist, and she's the president and founder of Pinckney Professional Counsel LLC, and that's based out of Central Pennsylvania. And we're going to have an open discussion about mental health on campus and how parents, you guys, can help to support your students while managing your own mental health. So welcome, Dr. Pinckney. Thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, no problem. We have lots of people coming in, Jersey, Louisiana, they coming in North Carolina.
Welcome.
Yeah, they are well represented across the United States and internationally. So thank you, parents, also. So I want to start off by just talking to you. I have a couple questions. And of course, parents, if you have some questions, post it in the chat so that I can see them and share them with Dr. Pinckney. So one of the questions that I have for you is, our first year college students, especially, we have a lot of parents who are dealing with first year college students. They are feeling lost in their classes. They feel like they're not getting along with their roommates. They just want to go home, right? They miss their friends, they miss their families. The problem is their parents are so excited about them being in school. And so sometimes it's hard for them to have that conversation with their parents because the parents are so excited, they're so proud that they're there. But it's really they're struggling with having that conversation about how they're really feeling on campus. What do you think our students should do in those cases?
I'm taking notes, so at any time you see me looking down, it's not that I'm not paying attention, but I want to make sure I capture things. So
no problem.
One thing, the first thing is, you may say this is so simple, but clear communication. I think you speak to, the parent we want, we hope and pray for our children to grow up and be successful, productive members of society. And if going to a particular college is an added bonus, most parents are like, sign me up. But the conversations that have to happen so early and the observations, what is that child telling you verbally, non-verbally? Because two things are going to happen. They're going to go your path and go your way and find themselves in this process and either join with that vision you had, or they're going to not align with it. And then they really get into, I need to find myself. This wasn't my vision. This was your vision. You're trying to live out and you don't want your child to be in a place where you feel like their, resentment is occurring. So to that, first, make sure we're clear on what their interests, their values are. If you've observed your child over a period of time, you can know what they're into. And if they're creative, are they a creative? Do they have a more creative mind in a sense? Do they need the business element of that? So how do you pair the need for college with that mind and making sure they're heading in the right direction? So definitely started with that clear communication on what they want as well as what you want.
And that's sometimes difficult, especially I would say for me, I graduated from Penn State. I wanted everybody to go to Penn State. I was like, you go to Penn State. And so when they finally did, when my oldest son finally did, I just kept dreaming of amazing opportunities for him, right? And so when he was not having a good time on campus, like I didn't want to hear that. I was like, what? I had an amazing time when I was at Penn State. What are you talking about? You get in there, do these things. And sometimes we get so caught up in our own vision for, like you mentioned, our vision for what we want for our child, that we can't hear. And it's not that we're deliberately blocking that, but we just can't hear because the loudness of our own minds and voices is kind of overwhelming us and not allowing us to hear exactly what we need to hear or see what we need to see in terms of our children not connecting with, what our vision and goals are for them.
And if I could say real quick, I did not add this to the resource sheet that I'm going to leave with you, but I can add it.
Okay.
Career inventories, personality inventory. So I'm writing RACIC. So if you've heard of the Holland inventory, these are great things to do with your student, your child. I always recommend getting it done maybe in middle school, then do it again in high school to see the evolution, because that's going to let them know, do they have an investigative mind? Are they, what kind of, so that's something I'll add, because that may be something that is a good tool for, say, maybe both of you will do it. You don't want it to be, it's like a collaborative process. So, you know what, I have this inventory, let's do it. Let's see where you land. Okay, I'll land over here and I'll land over here. You'll see like where they may land, and it may be that they're landing more towards a trade or something that's not, they're maybe not going to go to college. They may go to a certificate or some type of skill trade, which is so needed.
Right, exactly.
We just had an electrician here this morning. So, yeah.
Exactly. So that's good. I mean, that's good, a good feedback, because I think sometimes we forget that college isn't for everyone. And unfortunately, we find out too late, right? After we didn't pay the tuition that first year. This year, right? Thousands and thousands of dollars later, we find out, oh man, maybe it wasn't for them, and it's okay, as long as we can support them, or that you have a vision and a focus for something that you do want to do. But we do tend to believe, and I think it's society kind of gives us this impression that if it's not college, then it's nothing. But we have some amazing entrepreneurial spirits out there, especially Generation Z. They're about getting, putting the book bag on their back, grabbing the mini, tiny home, and going all over the country doing their thing. And so really trying to support our young people who don't see college as their future vision, that I think that will help kind of alleviate some stress that they may realize once they get on campus. So how about the flip side? So parents are currently, right? So I can speak on behalf of the university, Howard University. We have parents that are super annoyed by the administration, right? And because of their annoyance and their frustration about what's going on with the administration, it often adds pressure on their students to leave campus, right? I'm not paying for this. You're getting out of here. You're out of here. Let's pack up. Let's go. But the students don't want to leave. Right. What advice do you have for the parents in these situations?
Right. This is I've seen both sides of it. I mentioned to Danielle starting, I mentored 3 female students. 2 are at Pennsylvania colleges. 1 is at a HBCU. And the uncertainty is heavy for the young person and heavy for the parent. So you're both feeling weighted. Maybe, again, communication's not clear, so you don't maybe know how you're responding, what trigger, what. We hope and pray for a smooth transition from high school to college. Admission offices, everything's a well-oiled machine when you get there, and all you got to do is have drop-off day, and it's going to be beautiful and hugs, and you're on your way. But more and more, we have to speak to, there is a disconnect. Calling places, and I listened to a little bit of your last live, another topic, but about navigating, who is this, who do I need to talk to? Who speak to the dean and student affairs and financial aid, and it's overwhelming. So if you already have a low capacity, if you think of, I don't know how many, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that is the tool that it looks like a triangle, and it's like you look at your low level going up to your top level. If your basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, safety, security, that's at the bottom tier there, your foundation. If those are threatened, it's very hard to have a high threshold for people not answering the phone, or just feeling lost, not having a schedule. You arrive to you're there, but I don't know what classroom I'm going to. I haven't heard from anybody. So it's a real thing, but parents' natural instinct, like you said, Danielle, to say you're out of here. Again, coming to the table with the young person and say, listen, I'm ready to be done, because this is not what I see for you, nor do, but again, coming to that basic needs. Let's ask for you and for me. Food, clothing, shelter, safety, security. Where are we lacking? Right. Helping them to go with you on that process to get to where you are, because you're there.
Absolutely. You're
there. But then they may say, well, I want to ride it out.
Yes.
Can you all come to a compromise? Can it be a win-win situation where, okay, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but I'll give you this. We'll do a semester. If this situation does not improve, what are our next steps? But do you hear the collaborative language? What are our next steps? How do we proceed?
Absolutely. I like that idea, because it does give it gives voice to what the student is feeling, and it also gives the parents the opportunity to channel their feelings about what's going on, but come to a compromise about what will be the next steps, and agreeing on that. I've seen in many cases where parents are like abruptly taking their kid, like showing up on campus, I'm going to take you right now. And that can be very disturbing. And I think the other thing is that sometimes our kids will voice their concern about something without necessarily wanting you to fix the problem. They just voice the concern because that's just a natural thing that they do, right? When they were younger, before they came into this semi-independent space, there's an issue, I'm gonna share it with my mom. My mom's going to give me some feedback. I'm gonna keep it moving because I really like this space, but I didn't like how I felt, in this situation. So I'm always thinking about, like, how did I address these issues when my kid was in high school? Because the way students react to seeing their mom showing up in the halls of high school is different than, seeing their moms and their dads showing up in the hallways of the college campus. And not all parents have access to just be able to get on a plane and do that. And so really trying to figure out your kid and what will work for them, and just having a common compromise for that. Any question? I'm keeping my eye on the comments, y'all, so I can address the questions for you guys. All right, so my next question was, we have parents that are far away, as we were reading earlier. Georgia, we got Louisiana, Rochester, New York, Philly, Jamaica, Queens, New York. All of these people are coming from all over the country, Texas. And so they are super far away from their students, and many of them for the very first time, right? They can't just come and swoop them up and fix the issue. We just talked a little bit about that. What advice do you have with parents to help them maintain their mental health and maintain their cool with all that's going on, especially keeping in mind what's happening at this particular campus right now, where it's really easy to lose your cool? What advice do you have for parents to help them get that balance back?
What I recommend, and this is something I'm going to share with you all, is developing what's called a RAP plan. I don't think any student should leave their parents' home, caregiver, loved one's home, without having one. Because in a time of crisis is not the time to plan. So we need to be proactive so that we don't have to be reactive. And what a wellness recovery action plan is it talks about what are your triggers. If you become, there's a mental health crisis for you, who should we call? If you feel anxious, a matter of fact, I have one here I pulled up on my phone, one of my mentees. So on her first page, I won't share this for confidentiality, but I'll give the first page is list your important contacts, right? Because who we calling? What if we can't get to you? What medications do you take? Wellness toolbox. So each student should know, what do they need to feel well? So sometimes in this case, this young person said, I need to take a deep breath because I really get worked up. So it's literally in a calm state, developing a plan for when you're not. And then what are you going to do? So we looked at campus safety, sharing my iPhone location with my parent, friend, or resident director. turning my find my phone feature on.
Mhm.
Those are some of the campus safety things. Then we talked about daily maintenance. So showering, brushing my teeth, eating. You got to stay up. You got to eat. You got to get sleep. They got to get sleep. Sleep deprived young people, sleep deprived parents. It's a challenge. It makes the job a lot more difficult. So I'm not going to go through each of these for the sake of time, but some of my favorites are triggers. So behind in my schoolwork, being away from my family, not making new friends, feeling isolated. I'm gonna start a GoFundMe because I don't have enough money.
Mhm.
So those are very, very overwhelming, not only for the family, but for that young person because they don't have that ease and that peace of knowing, again, that their basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, support, resources, and love are going to be there. Then we talk about crisis plan and coping skills. Talk to who are you want to talk to? This person said, I need to call my mom. I need to have a deep breathing session. So all those kind of things, having that well thought out, because like I know one young lady had a panic attack and everybody was all crowding around her because of course that's what people do.
Right.
And she wasn't able to calm down until they got her mom on the phone.
Mhm.
And her mom said one thing, breathe. One word, mom got on the phone and said breathe.
Right. And that, sometimes that's all that it takes, either a good hug from your mom, or your dad, or even your little sister or brother, or just a word that kind of
Mhm,
calms you and bring you
mhm.
at peace. Now, Candace McKeever, she had asked the wellness, so the RAP plan, is that the wellness recovery action plan? Is that what that is?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen real quick so you can see a sample of what it
Okay.
looks like. It's open and just hopefully it'll not take too long. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll make sure that we add some of the resources that Dr. Pinckney is sharing with us to our folder and our group page, so you can access this information as well.
Mary Ellen Copeland is the founder of it. And in the links that I'm sending you, there's a video, with her telling you about it, the
Okay.
theory and how it works. And then within here, this is the long one. This one is the long one, but it's good information. But all of this kind of stuff is in here. Let me go to my fast scroll.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So this is a very helpful too, and I really like your comment that you said that in a time of crisis is not when you start to plan.
Right.
And that makes sense. I mean, I think about when, and it's probably very not, it's not apples to apples, but think about when we're out shopping, right? If we're out there shopping when we're hungry, you make some mistakes. You start buying stuff you ain't really have on your list. You get the junk food, and then you get home and you realize you didn't buy anything that you were supposed to purchase, right? So that's kind of like in crisis, right? I'm
Yeah.
hungry and now I'm thinking about what I need to purchase, as
Mhm.
opposed to in a space where you're calm, you're not hungry, you can write things down, you can think
Right.
rationally, you can take time to go through your
Right.
pantry.
Right.
And so using this wrap plan or this toolbox here, I think
Mhm.
prior to major changes happening in your home would help a lot with managing stress and anxiety.
So there you see triggered action plans, helping them understand what are their triggers. Because again, if you have food insecurity growing up and you didn't know where your meals were coming from growing up, and then your family got into it, maybe a place of stability, you get to college and now you have food insecurity again, right away you're triggered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's see. Is there a question here? Is the admin stress many of the issues are like skill? Yeah. Yes. Absolutely, Candice. And so, we have this long distance thing going on with our parents, with kids being away for the first time in many cases, and living this semi independent new experience. Some of the students, the freshman students, are also forced because of housing situations to live off campus, which most, for me, I wouldn't have wanted that for my daughter in her freshman year. First of all, she looked like she's 12. And so the idea of her living off campus is like, oh my God, somebody's going to think she's a wandering kid, trying, I don't know what she's doing, skipping school. So the idea of her living off campus was really making me nervous even as a senior in college. And so we have a lot of parents whose kid had to live off campus, and so that added stress and that added pressure, and being a little bit farther away because they're living off campus, living a little bit further away from counseling services that may be available on campus. In addition to that, because of the pandemic, a lot of jobs had to be cut. And some of those jobs were essential kind of jobs, like, or what we felt like was essential on campus, or staff was leaving the university to go someplace else where the pay was higher, and some of that was counseling services. So
Yeah.
what impact do you think the pandemic has had on students' ability to seek counseling services?
I think it has impacted, just again, during my college days, if you were feeling away, you can go sign up easily for the counseling center, get yourself a therapist. If you were in the counseling program, you had to go see a counselor before you graduated, just to have that experience. But like you're speaking to now, what we value, what we should value, sometimes we don't pay for. And it's unfortunate because then we get unhealthy young people who don't have adequate resources to work through. So that's where we have to develop what you were saying earlier, whether it's a cousin, a sister, a friend, we call those natural resources. Those are your people that, whether they're paid or not, they can be in your life. So yeah, one thing that the pandemic has brought about is the ability to do telehealth. The way we're sitting here, just the way we're sitting here. So it may not be through your platform of your school, but it may be through, say, for instance, like I'm a member of Taraji P. Henson's Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. So you may go there and you can find a therapist and you can get 5 free paid for sessions. They'll help to link you with someone maybe in your local community. So I'm putting the link, Therapy for Black Girls, Black Men Heal. Those are some great natural resources, again, that students should be able to tap into to get that mental health support that they need.
Absolutely. And that's something that Monica Meningo Johnson just posted, like, her frustration and disappointing with the lack of, having had access for her bison for student health and counseling on campus, and, really trying to figure out, are there some other recommended sources that she could access? And those sources that you just mentioned is amazing. And just as a reminder for all of those who are logged in, we will have those resources and those links hyperlinked in the document. It looks like that is going to be added to our folder on our page. So you can go into that and you can find the resources. And one of the things that I appreciate about this document is that, as an African American therapist, Dr. Pinckney knows how important it is for families of color to find therapists that look like us, look like me, look like her. And in any ethnic background or cultural background, it's really important for people to find someone who understand my culture, understand my, my environment, understand my gender, before I reach out to them for the support. And so I think that this list is going to also provide that.
Psychology Today is one that's in there. You put in your zip code, it'll do the work for you. You can search by specialty. So yeah, I'm going to make sure you all have a good toolbox.
And so we have another question. My daughter deals with anxiety at times, and we used to use the EAP, but she found it not to be very helpful. What is your recommendation for seeking counseling in DC that she can connect with? And is a teen counseling service more helpful?
You also may want to look into some guided imagery. What are some other ways? Therapy, sometimes people think it's just one form, and it's psychotherapy, and they have to sit and talk. So for example, about a week ago, I was seeing someone, and they typically do okay, but they were like, I have a painting I want you to see. And they were just painting at home. And a family member said, are you still seeing your counselor? Might want to
do that.
And we went through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, do you see that you said more in this painting than you've said in words in 3 sessions? So maybe, is it music? Is it art? Is it some other form? And then having that, again, I don't classify myself as an art therapist. Have I had to have some form of training along my journey? Yes. But you want them to have a therapist that would be able to, maybe it is a psychotherapist, but they can encourage them to explore other avenues to be able to talk through and express themselves. So yeah, maybe a young, going through psychology today, or letting them be a part of the process. Anytime you're finding a therapist, you are interviewing them. We work for you. So if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. No harm, no foul. Just keep looking, because there is a right fit out there. What they say, every lid has a jar of hope.
Amen. Yes.
Unless it's at my house now.
Exactly right. Exactly. Well, I like that idea that, we don't have to necessarily be sitting on a sofa to get the therapy that we need. And you're right. Some people who are artistic, they kind of, dig into that. Some people who are vocal, maybe using their voice, maybe singing, helps them. Some who are auditory, maybe just listening to music, or listening to TED Talks, or listening to things that just kind of keep your mind right. I am, very auditory, and so I'm always listening to the sounds of music, or sounds of water, sounds of waterfalls at night, to help me relax and sleep. And it always works. And usually when I do that, I am in my deepest sleep. The other thing that I've started to do about 4 years ago is use my Fitbit to determine, am I sleeping throughout the night? And I realized I had not been. I thought I was getting rest, or thought I was getting 8-9 hours of sleep. But when I looked at my chart, it was really showing I was only sleeping for 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem, because I'm closing my eyes, I thought, at 10 p.m. and it's 8 in the morning. But you're telling me I only really slept for 45 minutes. So sometimes that has an impact on our mental health. And
oh my gosh, that's what I said earlier about sleep. Sleep. I'm talking, it's called, what I call it, restorative sleep.
Yes.
There's one thing to just lay down, but I'm saying getting to REM sleep, actually dreaming.
Exactly.
That's the level of rejuvenate. So much happens while you're asleep. I mean, down to a car wash for your eyes, down to just your body healing. It's so much that has to happen. So with young people who are transitioning into college, they have to get disciplined. And sometimes it's a real reality check to discipline, because then they realize, I can't stay up on FaceTime. I can't stay up Snapchat. I can't stay up doing all these things and be a student and think I'm going to be a productive person at an 8 a.m. class.
Right.
Probably not.
Absolutely.
And then I bring to this next slide I wanted to show really quick, is separating out the difference between, this is from the National Institute of Mental Health. I'm so stressed out. I wanted to chat, said something about stress and anxiety. It's so important to really understand and tease them out. Again, don't strain your eyes trying to read this now, but you will have this. But this guideline looks at what is stress versus anxiety. Stress is an acute, it's happening right now related to a situation. You can have good stress, bad stress. You're getting married, or there's a graduation, there's a prom. You might be like, you running around like this, but it's for an event, right? But as time goes on, when it becomes anxiety is when it's going on for a longer period, and it's just that continuous feeling of dread and doom, and it doesn't go away, and it impacts your social life, how you're becoming more isolated. So this is a really good tool for people to work through. And then it also, I don't like to just look at the one side of it, coping. How do you cope with it? What are things you need to do? And you're not going to see anything in here. There it is. Stick to a sleep routine, sleep regimen. You're not going to get away from it, because that is a part that I think sometimes can be overlooked, the importance of sleep, and how, these are some other good tools. So I don't want to take long.
That's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually going to be my next question. How can students know the difference between, depression or stress and anxiety? Because it is a little different. And I know that for me, over the past year and a half, I've developed a little bit of anxiety, some social anxiety, because of COVID, right? Many of my colleagues, when they went home, when we were sent home back in March of 2020, many of my colleagues went home to their families, to their dogs, to their husbands, to their grandmas, to whatever. And I actually I went to my apartment, to those four walls, because of my family is nowhere in, Wisconsin. Right. And I didn't think that would be an issue. I was like, yeah, turn up. I'm going to be working from home. I've been hoping for this, And 6-7 months into it, I'm like, oh my God, this is like solitary confinement. Because I don't want to really go out, and deal with people who don't believe that COVID is real, but if I stay in here, and so I dealt with that. And so, so coming out of it, and they were like, okay, finally we can come back into the office. I'm like, ooh, I'm afraid of humans now. Like, I don't know, I want to do that. So I was dealing with some anxiety as well. And I was like, I don't know what this is. Because I never felt this before, but really trying to understand the difference between, is this depression and like legitimate stress, or are you just dealing with some temporary anxiety about a decision
related to,
right.
Yeah, and that's good to help young people and, ourselves and our young people to be able to tease that out, because anxiety is thrown around so much. Stress, they're kind of becoming interchangeable, but they are different. And I think it's important. I always say you want to be careful what you speak over your life. Self-fulfilling prophecies are real. So if you, I have people say, my anxiety, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, throw the whole section away. What just happened? Oh my gosh, that's right. Because when you put it to your hand to your chest, that says you own it. It's become a part of you, and it's something that you're not even considering getting rid of per se. So when we start to separate and say stress is a thing, anxiety is a thing, I'm a person, and I can experience symptoms of anxiety. I can experience symptoms of anxiety, but don't just, some people naturally, they really do have generalized anxiety. I'm not, but at the same time, it's often loosely associated with a change. What I've seen over 2020 has been related to adjustment. I've seen more adjustment disorder than a long time, because loss of structure, loss of job, loss of just the normal everything. And it has impacted us, and it's impacted our kids, because going to college is looking very different. And then once you get there, on top of having to, take all of these different precautions, and now you're dealing with inadequate, all kind of things that are just not up to par.
And so one of the other questions that the chat is asking, Melissa Mendez Boatwright, she was asking about Zen spaces. At her job, there is space where people can retreat and download and decompress and relax. And so her question is specifically about, is there a space at the university? I'm sure you probably don't know this since you're not at the university, for the students to be able to do that. What is your recommendation for them to create that space, knowing that you probably don't have access to the university to know if there's a specific space, but is there some recommendation?
It is interesting, especially when you're looking at shared space and you're looking at a dorm. One thing I'll say Facebook and social media has allowed us to do has seen the transition for people and how creative they can be in a small space. I mean, some of these dorms, I'm like, who thought of that? Like, that's so cute. Or, so I've seen, like you said, incorporating, is it going to be a sound machine? Are you going to go to YouTube and download Calm? Or are you going to listen to, if you can't get it, then create it. And even in your small little space, what is it? Is it going to be walking? Is it going to be nature? Is it going to be finding out that thing that you can incorporate that just allows you to be? It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to go far to do it. But again, being in your dorm, where is a space within your building then?
Right.
Is there a place, or so just, you got to know the layout of the land, but also get creative. Learn what's in your immediate environment. Maybe there is a small place or some place in your community that's a Zen type feel, and you like to go there.
And it's really interesting, because I did see something on Instagram, I think maybe Twitter, it was several months ago, where students were talking about another group of students who was organizing like a yoga session, and they found like this really isolated place somewhere on campus where it was really quiet, it was away from everything, and they were doing like a really kind of concentrated yoga session where the noise was blocked out, and they were just in their space and really kind of having some calm. And so they had to search out that space on campus. They didn't want to do it in the gym because it was just too much activity going in the gym. They didn't want to do it in common spaces on campus because it was too much movement. But they had to, intentionally find that space And then the other thing that I want to suggest, listen, any other person who's asking about like a Zen space, when our kids were little, I don't know about yours, my daughter used to crawl into cabinets. She's so tiny now, she can probably still crawl into cabinets, but she used to be able to crawl into kitchen cabinets and close the door, right? And it was something about that made her feel so comfortable and safe and calm. Anywhere that she could. We had parson chairs where there was cloth, uh, legs. So it was like these little pieces of cloth that's kind of hanging over the legs of our dining room chairs. And she would crawl into there. I couldn't find her. I'm like, where's my child? But she always found these little space because it felt really safe and it felt calm and relaxing. And she would pull all her toys in there. She would bring our pets in there, like whatever, to relax. So sometimes it's just about finding a little tiny space in a space that you're already in, or intentionally looking for spaces that have less traffic so that they could just have a calming moment and learn how to do some meditation and meditative practices.
Yeah.
There's another question about psychology today. Is that covered by insurance?
Depends. It's the shopping mall of therapists. So, there's lots of other things out there too, but this is what we're talking about. Each clinician, you get their information. So that will be a link either to their practice, or it'll say on there what insurances they accept, or they sliding scale, things like that. Do they accept EAP, out of pocket, so all of that. That's up to each individual clinician, but that's on Psychology Today under the profile that you pick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we have another question here about the pandemic and the forced isolation. So our young people have been in these spaces where they've been forced to be isolated. Many of them, especially our freshmen that are coming in, had their first freshman year experience still at home, social isolated, and then they come on campus and they have been socially isolated. And so with that, the question is that, number one, it's still hanging around. And there's a little bit of hesitancy from our students to engage. How do they get their students to recognize that and that may be a little bit of social hesitancy, and that in coaching them out of that?
Yeah. Fear is, like you mentioned, fear earlier, right? So having a clear understanding of the level of fear, level of comfort. So what are you comfortable with?
Right.
Are you comfortable with virtual meetup type situations versus in person? Those are going to be very important, but encouraging it all the while. One of the things I've heard most from my girls that I mentor and going to college through a pandemic is just, I feel so lonely. Like, so your data in the beginning, I'm like, check, heard it. But it will be very much, it's reality based. And to tell our young people, like, Bruce, we have to face the reality of it. Right. The reality is they have an experience that is unlike anybody else's that we know of transitioning to college. So what did they do at home? What are the generalizable skills? Because they're like, well, I didn't feel depressed at home. I just like being in my room. Well, you were at home. You were in a familiar place. You were familiar space. The smells, everything about your brain said. But now you're waking up and you look at the ceiling and you're like, where am I? So one young lady has put those little glow in the dark stickers on her ceiling because it helps to center her when she wakes up and she doesn't feel as anxious. Where am I?
Right.
So those grounding techniques. So it's going to be very important to be self-aware about what's important to, what's important for. And earlier, when we were talking about the RAP plan, there was one document that I wanted to share with you all, if I find it. But we can, for the sake of time, if I find it, I'll just bring it up.
Okay.
But triggers and all of that, kind of creating a self-care plan. Let me show you this. So one of the links here that you all will have, this talks about coping, lifestyle behaviors. What do you going to need to do differently now that you're away from home? Self-care assessment. I love this one because this one kind of gives you, I don't know if this is going to follow me when I click. Let me 1 minute, we'll see. Yes. So for physical care, What are these things you need to do? Eat regularly, eat healthy. So physical care is physical care, psychological care, emotional care, spiritual care, relationship care, workplace professional. So using these tools can be very, very helpful. And young people really my young people love doing this kind of stuff. They really do. It's about me. And I like to learn about me.
So they want to learn, right?
They want to know about people. If people should know about me.
Right. And it's kind of like what we experience when we're going through like the MBTI assessments or the colors assessment.
Yeah.
Like we're learning something new about the way we think and the way we engage with people. And so these assessments are, you know, pretty fun for young people to try to explore. Sometimes they don't know where to go to find those assessments. And because they're so tech savvy, they want to be able to do it on their phone quickly and get the calculations. You know, they don't want to have to add and subtract no numbers to figure out exactly where they are in this spectrum. And so I think these tools, for those of you who are on this call, you'll see all these hyperlinks and you can kind of go through them before you even share it with your loved ones so that they can know which one is the best tool for them.
This one is one I say is a cheat sheet that everyone should have. It's one page, right? Because the rap page, like I said, there's levels. There's a 35-page rap, there's a 20-something, and then this is a one page. What are the warning signs? So what thoughts, images, moods, situations, behaviors, what's happening for you, right? What are the setting events? And then what are your internal coping strategies? Things to help take your mind off of so there's that relaxation, physical activity. Some young people, you know, they may say prayer or joining a spiritual group on campus. They join the local campus choir and now that's helping them in some way. People in social settings. So like Danielle just said, are they going to do, I just heard someone, they did a yoga in the lawn. Very example that Danielle just gave. People who I may ask for help. So is this a natural support? And then here's your emergency contacts. Who should you contact during a crisis? And then making the environment safe. So the one thing that is most important to me is worth living. And this is kind of like a safety contract. So this is something that you can fill out, screenshot, take a picture, have it in your phone. Everybody have it, laminate it, put it in your dorm, whatever. You know, so yeah.
Awesome. This is awesome. These are some great resources. And Melissa and Candace and all of you amazing people that are on here. Again, all of these resources is going to be in under our file tab. We'll upload that as a resource. She has these things hyperlinked throughout the document, make it easy for you. So all you got to do is download the document, you know, and keep it on your computer or just click the resources that you're looking for and share it with your loved ones. So this is amazing. Do we have any other questions in here? I see asking about where the link is. One of the things that I do want to share before we close out is that, you know, even as adults, and one of the things that I think you might want to be transparent with your student is your own anxiety and your own stress that you're dealing with. I think the more transparent you are about your own stress and your own anxiety with your young person, the more transparent they'll be because when they think that the parent is a superhero and they haven't dealt with that and they can get through anything, they feel that they're weak and that they can't compare. They don't even want to let you know that they're not as strong as you. But the moment that we open up and allow them to know that we've had those challenges, and I will say for myself, I am dealing with those challenges right now. I don't want to own that anxiety, right? I don't want that. No, it ain't mine. It's yours. You know, I'm trying to get back, right? But I'm dealing with it, and every day, like I struggle, and so. For me, one of the struggles that I have is like sometimes in the morning, and I'm a very social person, and Ericka can tell you that this is my thing. Like I love socialization. I love speaking in public. This is what I do. But because of the pandemic, it has thrown me off a little bit. So I'm a little, you know, human adverse. Like, don't get away from me. No, don't talk to me, you know. And in the morning when I have to get up, I have to work extra hard to give myself self-talk to walk out the door. Because I would easily talk myself back into the house, stay in the house because of the pandemic. And so me sharing that with my daughter or my son make it easier for them to share kind of what they're dealing with. Because again, our young people sometimes look at us as stronger than life, right? The superheroes. And if we're not willing to be transparent and vulnerable and have this conversation, they may tend to pull back and not share that. So that's my recommendation. Make sure that you're just as transparent and vulnerable with your your bison as much as you want them to be transparent and vulnerable with you. And it doesn't blur the line between mother and child or father and child. It's just reconnecting with them in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And showing the vulnerability. Again, I've worked with people, and I just recently someone said, "Well, I'm dealing with grief." They both were dealing with grief. It was a mother and a daughter. Well, they're both dealing with grief. Right. So it's like, well, we can deal with this together. You don't have to go to your corner and I go to my corner. There are times where, you go to your corners, but in some circumstances and instances, last thing I want to share with you all, it's necessary to finish that point. It's necessary to be vulnerable and show that I'm not a failure. Again, if I don't meet that. I was looking for my favorite image of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So when wrapping this up and thinking about the state of what's going on at Howard University, students, parents, communication, and then recognizing, is there a smooth trajectory of what's happening for your young person right now? No, because what's happening with the psychological and physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, right? We're already we're stumbling right here. Mm-hmm. Then we get up here to safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property. Okay, we need to go up to love and belongingness. So then friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Mm-hmm. That's impacted. Esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. All the while, we want them to reach self-actualization. Meanwhile, this trajectory is struggling. They're struggling right now. Right. Because the goal would be the desire to become the most and be all you can be. Mm-hmm. So the goal is to reach self-actualization, but we have to recognize these are the pillars. These are the steps to get there. And if there's a deficit in one of these areas, not saying everything's perfect all the time, but we have to work to recognize right now, our babies are struggling right here at a basic need level. So thank you all for taking the time out of your day to come and sit and speak. And, Danielle, for your work and your team and everybody for making this space, because it's not easy. And I can't even imagine, the distance that, like you said in the beginning, being able to swoop in and fix it. But now you got a couple 100 miles between you. You can feel powerless. So parents, be kind to yourself. Tell your young person to be kind to themselves, because you all are going through a whole lot.
Absolutely. And that's really impactful, looking at that chart and that visualization, that psychological need, the base, the foundation of everything. And if that is disturbed, it really will impact your ability to get to the top of that, right? To realize that self-actualization. And our babies are impacted right now. That baseline there is really causing a lot of problems with our young people. And so I want you guys to use the tools that Dr. Pinckney is going to provide for you guys. Share them with your bison, share them with other bison, share them with even young people that you see in your community who are still in K through 12, still dealing with social isolation issues, and your own self, your family, your husband, your elders, whomever is in need of those resources. Make sure you share it. I do want to give one final note about seeking therapy. Again, Dr. Pinckney mentioned that therapy doesn't always have to look like you on someone's sofa, right? Some people have a little bit of resistance to that, and you can find therapy in so many forms. But I also want you to share with your bison that you don't have to be in a crisis to seek help. You don't have to wait for crisis to happen to seek help. You can seek help right now. For me, going to my therapist is like chopping it up with my girlfriend. You know what I mean? It's prevention. It's like, let me go hang out with my girlfriend, right? Even though I know that's my therapist. But for me, it's a social hour helping to maintain so that when I actually have to tap into it, it's there for me, and I'm not trying to run to it because I'm in the midst of crisis. So having therapy or seeking out help doesn't have to happen when crisis is happening. No one needs to know that you're going through therapy, so if you're afraid that people know about you going, no one needs to know. You don't need to share. You share whatever you want to share. I know social media allows us to really be vulnerable and just let everybody know. Everybody don't gotta know your business. And so, we can keep that, to ourselves, and our young people can keep that to themselves and not have to fear people knowing that. And it doesn't have to be something that you are committed to going to every week, right? You determine how often and how much you need and how long you need to be in that, as long as you find the time to tap into the needs that you have to help strengthen your mental health. And it's not always a cost associated with some of the resources that Dr. Pinckney is going to share with you has no cost associated with it or very little cost associated with it. And so it doesn't have to always cost. It could be free. And it's also a great way to learn about other resources, right? Just having those conversations and connecting yourself to therapy may open up doors for other resources. So those are the final notes that I want to share with you guys. We will come back again next month. We have an amazing young gentleman that's going to be joining us to talk a little bit about partying on campus and some of the things that our students need to be aware of when we are out there on campus. Enjoying these parties, and that was, some a request by a few parents to have a conversation about that. So that will happen in December. We are finalizing that. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us today. Florida and Atlanta and Georgia and Texas and California and Philly and New York. Everywhere. Thank you for coming in today. Thank you, Dr. Pinckney, for giving us your time. We appreciate you and your expertise, and hopefully we'll be able to call upon you again to come in and bless our parents. Have a good evening, everyone, and I will talk to you again soon.
Yeah.